other people wearing bounce helmets but not riding bounce bikes, they would actually stop those people. And like the bounce users would be like, ऐसे कैसे आपने चुरा लिया, helmet वापस दे दो. And they would actually take the helmet back from these people, and they would message us, WhatsApp us saying, we have the helmet, and we would arrange to kind of get the helmet picked up. I don't think people, even today, understand the value and impact that a design can actually bring to the product, right? And it's a love that you can't explain. It's a loyalty that you can't explain, and that is what user experience has impacted. But I'm also surprised to see that people still don't get it. Design is not just just the skin that you see. Design is a very, very broad spectrum of things. It's just a different way of thinking. It is just a different way of looking at problems.
So, hi Sruthi, good to have you on the podcast today. Let's start with your role at Wint. You are the co-founder there and also chief design officer, right?
Right.
So, what does your role look like?
As a founder, you don't really have one role. You kind of end up doing a lot of things, right? I do take care of the design. Design and research are the two big chunks that I'm taking care of. But here and there, also part of the discussion, strategy discussions, product discussions, roadmap, all of basically, I think, end-to-end spectrum of what the future of Wint looks like.
Okay, got it. Wint is still an early stage company. I think they did a Series A.
Series A, yes.
Yeah, and your role is chief design officer. So what I'm wondering is, what's the importance of having a design co-founder in an early stage company like this? What's your view on that?
So see, in the finance platform, or rather the spectrum we are in a fairly regulated space, right? So while there is room for innovation, there is still limited room for innovation. So what will set us apart, that we know very, very clearly, is the user experience, is the product itself.
But why fintech and why Wint Wealth in particular? Because your background has been more in very consumer-centric companies. What I have seen is when people become founders, they try to build on whatever they have done before, the industry that they have a lot of knowledge in. In your case, it was kind of like, at least from a distance, it feels like it's a pivot into a different industry altogether.
So I think, like I said before, for me it is the 0 to 1 part, right? Like I've done that, and I've a lot of experience in building products from scratch. So that is how I look at things. To me, industry is just a different challenge, because the users are different. Right? Like when I was in Bounce, the users were different. When I was at Meesho, it was more tier 2 kind of user. Now we're talking about a fintech product, which is like the 1% of India of sorts, right? Like, so for me, it was more about, the challenge that I will get to work with. And finance was something that I have been, again, looking forward to working with. And that industry had kind of not panned out yet. And it just made sense because it's a completely new challenge for me, different kinds of user, different problems to solve. But my experience from 0 to 1, which is building products from scratch, kind of taking that, and that would be like where my strength comes in rather than the industry.
What does Wint do? I still I don't know much about the product, but now that you have spent 8 to 9 months there as a as a co-founder now, so what does the product do? What's the core aim of the product?
So basically, the whole goal of finance right now is to diversify your investments, right? Because people are very limited with just the stocks, mutual funds, and then we see a lot more potential in the bonds market. Not a lot of people are investing there right now, and there's a lot of potential there because it is kind of FD is the kind of the safest form of investment, and stocks are fairly volatile, and bonds kind of come somewhere in between the two, and it's just about diversifying investments for users. So that is the goal, ideally, right, which is to help users diversify their kind of investments. And largely our focus is in the fixed income platform. So we've kind of scaled to FD as well now. We have FD on our platform. So yeah, that's kind of what we are doing, and the goal is to become like the one place for fixed income platform.
Okay. Do you get Gen Zs as a significant user base?
Not yet, no. We do for 1K. Whenever we bring a smaller asset, smaller investment size asset, we do get a lot of younger folks, but largely it is 30, 35 plus. One of the philosophies for early investors, it makes more sense to actually take riskier bets, to invest in platforms like your stock and mutual funds and all of that, rather than in bonds. But
Why?
bonds, it's a safer asset. The interest rate is not as competitive as you would see in stocks and mutual funds. And when you're young, you can take that risk.
That makes total sense. I actually never thought like this. Uh, so Gen Zs are not the target segment as such, like not the primary target segment, and for a very clear reason.
Correct.
Moving on, um, you are one of the very few design co-founder of a startup that I am aware of. Why do you think there are so few design co-founders while we have so many engineering co-founders, business co-founders?
I don't think people, today, even today, understand the value and impact that a design can actually bring to the product. I'm really glad to see from where I've started to where I've come now. Like initially it was a challenge to kind of prove ourselves. Now it's definitely getting easier because there is a lot more in the more head of designs that are there in the industry, because of which design finally has like a say and people understand the value. But I don't think it has really seeped into people. Like they don't understand what value a user experience can add. And when I say user experience, I'm not just talking about the app. It's the overall experience from the time they see a marketing campaign, or from the time they get to know about a brand, to the time they come back to our product, right? That is experience. So people don't think that holistically, and so I just feel it's just a lack of awareness of what value user experience can add
Why
in
do
the
you
product.
think there is lack of awareness?
uh Difficult to say. I don't know if it's awareness or just acceptance, or just basic disregard ki nahi hai, matlab, I think there's just MVP ka concept now has been like uh, bloated so much. Everybody wants to build, and MVP is a good thing. Like when I have built MVPs in the past, right? But I think it's important to understand where designers can add value, why MVPs, where MVP can just be like a basic product versus where MVP will need to be an end-to-end experience product, right? So that is kind of what matters. But yeah, I'm honestly not really sure why that awareness is so low. I mean, it's very, very clear now in the industry that design matters, right? Apple, any of the great products you see, anything that you love, are built by are basically user first, design first companies, and that is what makes the product more kind of memorable. That product just remains with you, right? And it's a love that you can't explain. It's a loyalty that you can't explain, and that is what user experience has impacted. But I'm also surprised to see that people still don't get it, and people still have to prove in discussions कि अच्छा like design का काम क्या होता है, like करता क्या है design. It's a very sad conversation to even have.
Yeah. Of all the companies that you have worked at, which one was the most challenging for you? And which one helped you learn the most? Maybe it can be the same company, but given the different stages the companies were at when you joined, I think that would be something interesting for us to know about.
Everyone had its own like different kinds of challenges. Very difficult to kind of pick and choose, because when housing started, housing was the one of the few companies in the startup ecosystem who was trying to bring design first.
Yeah.
Right, so that was a different kind of challenge there. We as designers were trying to kind of prove ourselves and show that it matters, like our contribution actually matters and it has an impact. So different challenges, but I think overall, if I had to kind of look back, I think Bounce would be the most interesting and challenging space because of the kind of product it was, right? It was a unmonitored vehicle that you could just go key in the numbers and you can take the scooter for a ride.
Yeah.
And then you can park it anywhere. There's a helmet involved, so there's a like a physical thing involved versus and plus there's an online presence as well, right? So the whole combination of that, getting people to do things, getting people to leave the helmets behind, when at that point we did not, like when we started, we of course did not have the technology to ensure that there's a sensor and it detects if the helmet is kept back or not. So all of these things we did not build in the beginning, right? So getting it, like getting people to actually do it, carrot or stick, whatever works, but getting them to do it was, I think, the most interesting part. And there were different kinds of users, right? We had people, we had users, we had people like who had who were not very tech savvy. So again, it was not that they did not intend to keep the helmet back, it's just that sometimes they forgot. So we figured out what are the reasons why people are doing what they're doing, and then kind of figuring out the solution. So I think overall, if I had to kind of say, end to end, physical and an online presence, Bounce was the most challenging. And yeah, and then now Wint Wealth, I think, because of just the space it is in, I think it's very, very interesting.
Yeah. Because we talked about Bounce, I want to know the story of the Bounce helmets.
Yeah.
And I remember coming back to India in 2020, and I saw, Bounce bikes and helmets everywhere, and it was very easy to spot from, like, from a distance that, okay, this is Bounce. And a few months later, I attended a workshop by you, whether you remember it or not, but I think I have talked about it multiple times. And I was like, okay, so she is the head of design there, and she probably contributed to, like, uh, the color palette for the helmets. So I think there are a lot of stories on the internet about Bounce helmets and how it was so easy to recognize. Even to this day, when I'm stuck in traffic, I see some people still carrying,
Yeah.
their Bounce helmets from like years ago. So what is the story behind it?
So I wish I was a part of that discussion when the yellow bikes came into existence, but the yellow bikes were in existence even before I had kind of joined. But yeah, I think we were discussing the whole rebranding exercise, and then one thing was very, very clear, like, because our logo was actually red, but our scooters were yellow. So there was a long discussion on should we leverage the red or the yellow, and I think one thing was very, very clear, that we're not getting rid of the yellow scooters because it had created an identity in itself, right? Like, those are Bounce scooters and Bounce helmets with the yellow helmet and the red
Yeah.
sticker. I think that kind of gained a lot of momentum. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I wasn't a part of that discussion, but we ensured that the branding continues. So ensuring that Bounce stickers are visible on the helmet actually helped us quite a bit. The decision to put stickers, initially it was just the helmets, there was no sticker. There was a small sticker that would come, but we changed it into like one massive sticker, because then people started identifying that these are Bounce helmets. So when they would see other people wearing Bounce helmets but not riding Bounce bikes, they would actually stop those people. And like the Bounce users would be like, "Yare, ऐसे कैसे आपने चुरा लिया, helmet वापस दे दो." And they would actually take the helmet back from these people, and they would message us, WhatsApp us, saying, we have the helmet, and we would arrange to kind of get the helmet picked up. And that eventually formed like a community. So it was this entire uh, the whole spectrum was so strong about people being so possessive about the helmet, because the problem they were facing is when they wanted to ride, they did not find the helmet. And the reason they did not find the helmet is because these people who are, taking the helmet without permission.
Yeah.
So they, like, for them, it was a very close to their heart kind of problem. And they formed a community, and we were also part of that community, and people would just send us pictures of vehicle numbers and people wearing those helmets, and then we would go try to retrieve those helmets. So pretty interesting journey we had with our helmet.
From this story, it is clear design and brand go hand in hand.
Absolutely, yeah.
I would love to know more about what is design according to you, and second, how design can influence different functions or domains in a company. What has been your experience like? Because there are companies where I have seen design can be super influencer when it comes to how the brand is perceived. In certain companies it could be a lot more focused on functional aspects of the product. um, Given your experiences in these different companies, um, how have you seen design influence product to marketing to brand to all these different aspects of running a business?
Uh, so I have been picky about the places that I work as well, right? So I've always have ensured that I only work in places where I know I will have an influence, or they actually value the importance of design, and they don't say it ki we are a design led company, but they're actually a design led company, right? So a lot of people say it, but they don't really walk the talk, right? They just keep talking about it. So for me that was like extremely important to know that what value does design hold. And once that was clear, then it was up to me what all challenges I wanted to kind of take up, right? When I was at housing, like most of us, like we worked quite independently. We worked very closely with the PMs, and we did our own research. And we also kind of went to PMs with problems, saying that what users are facing this problem. Now the PMs would help us understand the scale of those problems and if it made sense for us to actually build features on top of it. So that's how kind of that journey started. And so I think design is not just just the skin that you see, right? You can design a system, you can design a strategy, you can design so many things. Design is a very very broad spectrum of things. It's just a different way of thinking, it is just a different way of looking at problems.
Moving on, I think it would be useful for the audience to learn more about the collaboration that happens between designers and product managers. You talked about at Bounce, like how you collaborated with product managers to solve some problems. Um, are there some rigid boundaries between what a designer is supposed to do, what is a product manager supposed to do? Uh, and a related question would be, how much design a PM should know in your experience?
Right. uh, so I think different companies operate differently, but the way I have seen, the way that works over time that I have seen is maximum collaboration between product and design. And what that means is, it should not be like a waterfall method where PMs come and say, "Ki, acha, this is the problem. Now, this is what we have to solve for. Now, you figure out the solution." So, designers don't even know ki, why are we solving this, what caused these problems, or they were not even part of figuring out if these were the problems. That is where a lot of gaps come, right? Because the designers also don't believe कि अच्छा ये सच में इतना बड़ा problem है क्या, ये किसी ने
Yeah.
बोला है हमें. That doesn't really mean that's really happening. So what I have seen work, and what at Wint we very very strongly believe is, anytime we decide to do something, we know that we're constantly looking at metrics. We know there is something that we want to solve for, or there is a problem that exists. Both designers and PMs, they start working together from day one, right? Doing the research, talking to customers, whatever is required, like doing outside in study. So both designers and product managers are involved. And if, like, my simple logic is, if PMs expect like designers to speak their language, I also expect the PMs to speak designers language, right? So it works both ways.
What does it mean?
So for me, PM's language is more like talking, understanding the business side of things.
Okay.
And for PMs, understanding design side is understanding the user side of things, which is being more empathetic to the end user that you're trying to build. So this is where like a beautiful combination of business empathy kind of comes together.
I understood like why the collaboration has to happen like that, but what about KPIs? How do we go about when it comes to something like PMs? It's easier to define their success metrics, but when it comes to designers, not so much. So when we're talking about these shared responsibilities, what have you seen working well when it comes to keeping both the teams accountable in terms of like metrics and performance?
Both in Meesho and right now in Wint also, what I have seen really work is design having the same KPIs as PMs. the contribution of those KPIs vary. So right now at Wint, for example, if PM's contribution to those KPIs are, let's say, at 80%, then designers' contribution to that KPIs would be at a 60%.
Okay.
And the remaining 40% are more behavioral aspects and in general the output of the work. So those are like the 40%, and 60% is still product KPIs only. So they have the same KPIs that any other team would have.
Can we take a couple of examples? Let's say we can pick any product. Let's say Meesho. What would those KPIs look like so that we can relate a little bit better?
So I'll just take a hypothetical example, right? We're launching a new product, and the success of the new product is basically ensuring that we are able to retain X percentage of users. So both product and designs KPI will be the same, which is, have we been able to reach that metric or not?
Okay.
If not, then it's not just the PMs, but both design and PM who have to keep improving whatever solutions we have built to ensure that we reach that particular KPI. So that's precisely how this would work.
What are the 3-4 key traits that you look for when you hire, let's say, a junior designer, or maybe we should say a fresher designer or an experienced designer? And do these traits differ from the first persona to the second persona, and how?
Correct. So it definitely changes, right? As you move in hierarchy of sorts, you would have different expectations from people from that level. So someone at a let's say manager level, I would see how have they been able to contribute to these strategic discussions, how have they been able to figure out and contribute to what problems to actually solve for, rather than just going with the flow. So these kind of things I look at, how well are they able to communicate things. Whatever said and done, you're still working with a group of people, you have different stakeholders, so you need to have the power to be able to get things done your way when you have a very, very strong hunch, and communication is kind of important. When that happens, language is not a problem, communication is important, which is are you able to convince someone to do something that you think is right? So I think that kind of conviction is required, and just like I said, the passion to solve a problem, like passion to solve a genuine problem, should exist. So these things are extremely important. I mean, it goes without saying culture fit, and then if they will ensure that, because like at a position, a managerial position, I would want someone who people look up to. Right, so those kind of skills are important, but like these are like P0s that I kind of look for when it comes to a senior person. When it comes to like a slightly more junior person, if I had to go to that skill, like definitely matters, right? But more than skill, I look at the thinking capability and how open are they to learn more. These two things are critical. Like even in my interviews, I ensure that I push back a lot, I question a lot, so that I want to see what is the response that I kind of get from these folks, that it shows if they're willing to kind of just settle with whatever I'm saying, or are they willing to push back if they have a perspective. So and if I give feedback, how open are they to kind of understand where it is coming from, and then how willing are they to kind of change their perspective sometimes and stand their ground when required as well, right? So a good mix of the both. But it's extremely important for someone to be open-minded and not come with an attitude ki mujhe to sab malum hai. So that is definitely like a negative thing.
Okay, but when we talk about fresher designers, one struggle that I have heard from a lot of leaders is just the limited supply of well trained designers, because we don't have that many universities in India training people in design professionally.
Correct.
I think there are a few NIDs, a few NIFTs also, and a couple of IITs which have dedicated design focused programs. Um, how do you solve for that? Like when you are, I understand. You look for thinking ability, you look for a, a few skill sets, but are you particular about which college they went to, or just like just a proof of work demonstrating their skills is enough. Because because I keep seeing in our community also, and in the larger community in design, um, people want to believe that a portfolio is going to be enough for them to get a foot in the door. If they just work hard and get an incredible portfolio ready, they will be like, 10x more likely than others. But I still want to understand your perspective in terms of when you hire or anyone else in your role hires, what do they look for in terms of um, which college they went to, particularly in a country like India where there is limited supply.
Um, so honestly, college does not matter because, like you said, like the supply is already quite limited. So we can't really be choosy. And there are people who have, who've not had any college background, but they're doing exceptionally well as well. So it's unfair to say that college has any added advantage. It's end of the day, it's the portfolio that matters. So that's the primary thing, and that continues to be true. Like, it's what is important. But what the other thing I also look at is, let's say for someone coming out of college, have they done internship?
Okay.
Because for me, these are the people who are very passionate.
Mhm.
Even if they've done 2 months of internship, 3 months of internship, they've done 2 months of internship in bits and pieces, that matters because that is real life experience. They have taken the effort to actually go out in the industry and gain that knowledge, gain that expertise, and then they're coming out, from the college. So that actually is a very, very crucial thing that I actually look at. Anyone, like, you can be an engineer, you can be studying CA, any field. But if you have that passion, you will figure out, some or the other way to get that internship, and that'll pay off for sure.
Okay. Changing gears here, you went to NID, right?
Yes, I did.
So you said colleges don't matter,
I'm saying
don't matter much.
no, I'm saying I wouldn't prefer someone with an experience over someone from a college over someone who doesn't have any college experience. It's end of the day, both their portfolios will come to me,
Yes.
and I will judge them based on their portfolio, not the background that they come from. Definitely wouldn't say college. Like, I personally had a very good experience from my education, because I studied design for almost 6 years, 6.5 years. So I would, a lot of the things I learned from the college background. But again, I'm saying it's just the end of the day, even it didn't matter when I was looking out for, right? Like, it was just the portfolio that I would share. Nobody would look at what background she's coming from. So it's the same thing now also. It's the portfolio that matters. And portfolio is actually a very good UX problem, which a lot of people miss out. Like, it's your portfolio and your resume, you're sending it to a user. What do you think the user will need?
Yeah.
What does the company will have a JD? Is your resume content tailored to what the company has asked for? So I think that's a very good challenge to solve, but I don't see a lot of people actually picking it up. They just have a standard template which is just followed. A lot of resumes I get don't even have a portfolio link. That's a clear reject for me.
So what's your view on online platforms that teach design in 3 months to 6 months?
I have folks in my team also who are from 10K cohorts, but I just feel that they're definitely doing something good, right? Because there's so many people who want to get into design, and it's so difficult. Like, design colleges are limited. There's mentorship also is fairly limited, right? So I think the kind of problem that they're trying to solve is really, really good, and I kind of connect with that problem. I think what happens is, again, I'm not sure what the core problem could be, but of maybe a larger chunk of people, I find few folks who kind of stand out, right? So, and I don't know what the solution for this could be. It could be something what all of these colleges do, right? Which is there's a first level filtration criteria that happens. But I know if that filtration criteria happens, then again, the problem that you're trying to solve is to cater to a larger set of users. So that will not happen. So I'm not sure if it is having more uh, relevant experience or helping them gain relevant experience or get them actual mentors to kind of work very closely with. But the problem that I see is that, there's of a pool of larger people, I find fewer good people. But that is one of the places I definitely look for when I'm hiring, right? Like folks who have passed out of these communities, because it does help me filter out a lot of folks who are out there.
So, Sruthi, we have talked about design, we have talked about careers. Um, what about what kind of design you like? What's your favorite product and why?
Are we talking about like physical product, or are we talking about digital product?
In my view, design is very broad. So let's pick one digital product and one physical product.
All right. Um, Digital product, I think, like if I had to pick one of the apps that I use very, very frequently, I would say, I think one of the apps that I really like is Duolingo. Like I think they have cracked that entire gamification side of things really, really well. The kind of characters they use, the kind of animations they play. It's a very inclusive product. It has, all the characters that they have. It's a very well thought through, even with every single detailing about the character, the way somebody would interact to a certain situation. It's all well thought through, right? So I just feel um, like they've just built a very, very beautiful product. In fact, I was learning Spanish and I was able to sustain almost 1 year using Duolingo. After that, I lost touch, but at least 1 year, it's a big win. Like 365 days learning one language. So I think to me it's one beautiful product.
What would be the physical product equivalent, like product that you absolutely love?
Okay, so this is just pure love, as in, it's just something that I really, really like are like Indian HMT watches. I don't know if anyone would have seen it, but they're just very beautifully designed, right? They are very, very clean, elegant. Um, I just have that, it's just beautiful, the product overall. So I think it's one of those products which I still hunt for old HMT watches whenever I can. They have Devanagari font, the dial and everything. So very unique designs which I've never seen, especially an Indian product build. I'm sad that they've shut down, but yeah.
So thanks a lot, Sruthi, for coming to the podcast. And I loved hearing your story and your journey from, an early designer to a design leader, then a founder. And also how you chose to, like, how you were very um, deliberate about choosing different industries just to optimize for more learning. And I think that's actually kind of a major takeaway for me and maybe like our audience, that why it's important to take more challenges and keep learning.
Great. Thank you so much, Navneet, for having me here. I know we've been having this conversation for a while now, to kind of connect and do this. This is great. It's too much fun.
Thank you so much.